we have used the Mongoose library to connect to a database that is running on in my machine. We've also declared a Mongoose schema to specify the structure of the data that we are retrieving and inserting and updating and whatnot. And we also created a quiz model, right, that is going to provide some really basic, some really generic functions that is going to allow us to retrieve, insert, update data and quizzes in this particular case. So let's go fetch some quizzes. We know we have a couple of quizzes in there, right? We have at least 6 quizzes, so let's go fetch them. So the way this works is that you grab the model, right, and the API, right, that allows you to interact with the model is very similar to the API that we have learned when we were using the Mongo client and interacting directly on the console. So to retrieve things from the database, we're going to use the find method, right? The same find method that we've learned in the console when directly interacting with the database. The difference here is that when we ran the find function, when we run the find function here in the console, we do an enter, the data is spit on the console, right? Here, it's not going to do that, right? Instead, it's going to assign it to a variable, and then we will have to be able to iterate over it and whatnot. So the way this works is that this find function, what it does is that it returns, the return value of this function, unfortunately, is not what you would expect. It's just, what you would expect perhaps is an array, right, of all these objects, right, that are in the database. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Instead, all these functions are asynchronous, right, meaning they go out to the server, to the database server, they execute over there, right, and then a little later they come back with the data, the response from the server, right? And we've used this mechanism before, setting up, talking to remote processes through an asynchronous API. We've done that, right? And usually these APIs, they use a technique called promises, right? So it's just like the promises we've used earlier in React and Angular, and you can take a look at the previous lectures on how to do that, right? We know that what this function is doing, right, is going to return a promise, and that promise is going to have a function called the then function, which is going to allow us to register for a callback, saying, and then the then function, when the response comes back from the server, is going to call our callback and passes the data that came back from the server, right? So in here, this is going to be the documents, right? All the documents that meet the criteria. In this case, it's just a simple find. Ideally, this would be what? All quizzes, right? All the quizzes, which is this here, right? All the quizzes. So this function and returns all the quizzes from the database. What we're going to do here is just going to spit it out to the console. So we're going to say console, and see if this works. So console.log, all quizzes. Okay. So let's try it out. Let's go here. Let's stop the server. Actually, I didn't mean to do that. It was over here. Stop the server over here, and let's do a node server. And there it is. Okay. Indeed, we were able to retrieve all those documents, right, that we saw in the console of the Mongo client. Right now, we were able to have it right here as an object, as an array of objects inside of a Node.js server. Okay.